Good morning. Good morning. My name is Brad Harmon. I'm also a member of our logistics team, and I want to welcome everyone to the second annual Savannah Logistics Lunch. We appreciate everyone coming out. We've got a big crowd. This is our second year. It's the second sellout we've had, and I think that's pretty impressive for such a new event. It shows that there's a lot of interest in the logistics arena, particularly here in Savannah. This year we've added an internet live stream for those who are not able to attend. Again, it's a sellout, so Fire Marshal will only allow a certain number of us in here. So I'd like to welcome the live stream viewers to the lunch as well. Hunter McLean is extremely pleased to partner with the Center of Innovation for Logistics to present this Savannah Logistics Lunch. It's a regional, in-depth focus of the summit, or the Logistics Center's summit in Georgia, in Atlanta. Many of you in the room travel up to Atlanta for the yearly event, and it's obviously much larger than this and much larger in scope as well. Today's event is focused on technology in transportation, technology and logistics, but with issues that relate to our region here, not just the Southeast, but here in the coastal Georgia area. Our partnership with the Center, I would like to thank everyone that's involved with the Center of Innovation for Logistics, particularly Janine Miller. Their assistance and their willingness to partner with us on this has been, we wouldn't be able to put any of this on without them. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. We've got an ambitious agenda today, so we're going to get started now. And we're going to be eating and serving during the presentations. To keep the noise level at a minimum, we've asked that the servers not clear plates, so the plates will just remain in front of you. You'll find beverage refills on your tables. If you need something else, please just contact a server. Bathrooms are in the atrium for those that may have need of that. And for our live stream viewers, if you experience any problems with your feed, please just refresh your browser. Now let's get started. Please join me in welcoming the Director of the Center of Innovation for Logistics, Janine Miller.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, this is such a big crowd. I love it. It's fabulous. Welcome to the Savannah Logistics Lunch, our second annual. As Brad mentioned, we're sold out. We increased our venue size by 50% and still sold out. So I think this is proof positive that this is the place to do business for logistics. This is an economic powerhouse here in Savannah, but it's certainly a worldwide logistics powerhouse. And thank you for being part of the community and for being here today. And we are very excited to have you here to connect and learn from each other about all the technologies and innovations that are occurring on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis in the logistics industry. First of all, I want to make sure that as we plan next year's event, we hear from you. On your table is a little card like this. On the back is a survey. We'd love to get your input and your feedback. There's pens on the tables as well. Please fill these out before you leave today. Drop them at the front desk and at the registration desk, and also be sure to pick up some of our materials there that we offer from the Center of Innovation for Logistics. I want to tell you about the center in just a moment, but first, thank you to Mary and the Hunter McLean team, particularly Brad Harmon, Colin McRae, and Smitty Smith, who we'll bring up here in a few moments to start the panel. Thank you so much for all of your partnership and support in making this happen here in Savannah, being such an important part of the industry here. I also want to thank our partners at the Georgia Ports Authority. I've got a table over here for them, and I'm sure you all know them very well and interact with them very closely. Of course, you probably have also heard that the rest of the world notices them almost, it seems like, on a weekly basis. There's some news coming out about how wonderful they are. Of course, they've recently won a 2016 EPA Clean Air Award for ports, $44 million grant to improve rail connections and traffic flow, and Inbound Logistics just recently named them, Georgia Ports Authority, one of the greenest ports in the U.S. So congratulations and thank you to the work of the Port Authority. I also want to thank the center staff, Center of Innovation for Logistics. This is the core team that makes all the magic happen behind the scenes. Sandy Lake, Emily Schrank, David Knuckles, Josh Fletcher, Dawn Price, and of course Jane Jordan. I know a lot of you know Jane. She's the anchor of our center here over the past 10 years, and Jane's wonderful, warm, delightful to work with, and thank you to all of you at the center for doing what you do for us. I also want to make sure that you guys know what the Center of Innovation for Logistics is. You probably see our emails, you might look at our reports, but we are one of 6 centers that is unique to the state of Georgia. Within the Department of Economic Development, we work with existing industry and to bring more growth and businesses to Georgia, helping them with their logistics. And we are, again, unique to the state of Georgia. It is testament to how much the state government, Governor Deal and the General Assembly supports business growth and prosperity, and we're very thankful for that, and we are here to serve. The other centers are located at other places around the state. We are a statewide entity, and I want to introduce to you today Steve Justice, who's our new director of all of the Centers of Innovation. Steve, will you stand for us for a moment there, just so everyone knows who you are, up here at the table. Steve is no stranger to the aerospace industry, as he is no stranger to Savannah because of his 30 years of experience, including working with the Gulfstream G4 business jet, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and you name it. He's an expert in aerospace, but he's also an expert in innovation and process improvements, and we're very, very thankful to have him with us. I also want to introduce to you a gentleman named Rob Dillon, who some of you may know. He's with Champion Logistics Group. Rob, where are you? Excellent. Welcome to Savannah. Rob is Rob, based in Atlanta but works statewide. I'm particularly excited to introduce Rob Dillon to you today. He is going to be our steering committee chair for the Georgia Logistics Summit this upcoming 2017. We're very delighted to have him on board. We're going to be doing a call for applications. We probably will have somewhere between 5 and 10 open positions on the Summit steering committee. So would love to get solicitation, get some applications from folks in Savannah to participate in that. Save the date, please, on your calendars, May 9th and 10th. As you have seen before on our website, we have information about the upcoming summit. That'll be published soon, as well as speaking opportunities there, sponsorship opportunities, and registration will be available. And speaking of our new website, we will have a new website, we are hoping, sometime in the next week or two. And you all will be the first to hear about it, to know when it's published. We're very excited about this website. It's going to really be much more user-friendly, and the users we're most excited to introduce this to are the shippers and the cargo owners that are currently operating out of Georgia, and those that we are hoping to recruit to Georgia. And when we do that, we like to send them to the Logistics Provider Directory. If you are not already, if your company is not already on our Logistics Provider Directory, hope that you will log in and load up your information. We'll have a new service where you'll be able to bring online all sorts of collateral and any additional information that will help your company connect with shippers in Georgia and throughout the state. So look out for that next week. And speaking of the summit as well, I wanted to show you the whole reason we're here today, and our theme is related to logistics technology. What you see here on this slide is something else you can get on our website. Presentations from last year's summit, as well as videos of those presentations. I picked out 3 slides in particular to highlight for you. We had some really important big companies that you know of course, UPS, C.H. Robinson, AT&T, Porsche Consulting, all spoke, Georgia Tech. But we also had some great representation from Savannah at our logistics summit this year, including Coastal Logistics Group, DJ Powers, and Mitsubishi Hitachi. In particular, though, the technology portions really focused on the things that we know technology is helping us with today and can enhance and grow our businesses even more in logistics and supply chain. Planning. Planning for your supply chain efficiencies is always a challenge, but the more data you have and the more you can put useful analytics to that data, the better your decisions will be, both as a logistics provider and as a shipper. This was a very interesting and I think very important service that's offered by a company called Chainalytics, Atlanta-based, that supports all sorts of supply chain design and data, but they have on a real-time basis what is being charged on trucking rates. This is one particular slide, but they have a plethora of data that's available and of interest to folks either who are just curious, but also what are other people charging for the rates? Where do I benchmark? How do I match up? go check out Chainalytics and take a look at their PowerPoint and their presentation. Operations is another way that logistics technology is supporting the work that we do in our businesses here. This particular slide relates to visibility in the supply chain. I'm going to go back to this one. Here you go. From Lean Core. They were one of our presenters as well. This is vehicle dispatch optimizing is one of their characteristics, one of their product offerings. Really important real-time stuff to know what's going on out there, where your assets are, how they're performing. And then when risks show up, like a weather event or a world event of any sort, AGCO presented for us their risk management, risk assessment dashboard. All this information is available on our website today, and would love for you to go and take a look at that, as well as the video presentations that are there as well. And switching gears and moving on, but before we bring up Chris Smith to moderate the panel for us for this logistics technology session that's applicable here to Savannah, I want to introduce to you our next speaker, who is a champion for logistics, champion for the Logistics Summit, and knows how important logistics is statewide to economic growth and prosperity. This is our Commissioner, Chris Carr. 2.5 years ago, our great Governor Nathan Deal had the foresight to appoint the state's economic development chief, Chris Carr. His job is job growth for us and for our families and for our communities. He leads this state agency that is the Department of Economic Development we're a part of, to generate even greater investment in our companies, international trade and tourism, arts, film, music industries, and workforce development. Chris is a UGA graduate from both Terry College of Business and the Lumpkin School of Law, so he is multi-talented beyond just his degrees. He began his professional career with Georgia Pacific, practiced law a little bit at Alton and Byrd, has served as vice president for the Georgia Public Policy Foundation, and just prior to coming on board at the department, he was chief of staff for the great Senator Johnny Isakson. Chris, please come up to the stage and address. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. This is an absolutely fantastic turnout, and I know we've got a full room here, and I know we are streaming, and we have others that are online, so this is just fantastic, and we greatly appreciate the support that you are giving to the Savannah Logistics Lunch, which is critically important. Janine, thank you so much. Having Janine Miller join our team a year or so ago is absolutely an unbelievable value add for not just our department, but for the entire state. Janine, thank you to you and your team for what you have done. Steve Justice, thank you for your role as executive director now of all of our centers of innovation, and we're very, very proud of that. Brad, thank you so much to Hunter McLean for sponsoring this lunch. I want you to know that Smitty and Colin McRae and I were actually law school classmates. Smitty and Colin are actually what good lawyers of the class of 1999 look like. As Janine said, I practiced at Alston and Byrd. I'm proud of that. It was the best 15 minutes of my life. And then I decided that they were probably better off if I went somewhere else. So it worked out very, very well. Eric Johnson, our board member, thank you so much for being here as well. And to our partners at Armstrong State, you know, our university system, our partners in the university system and technical colleges are unbelievable. When you talk about what companies are looking for, it is logistics and it is workforce. And to be able to have great partners like this, we greatly appreciate it. So thanks to all of y'all. It has been a great few years in economic development in the state of Georgia. For the third consecutive year, we've been named the #1 state in the nation in which to do business. And why is that? It's because of our world-class logistics network. It is because of our world-class universities and the world-class workforce that we have. It's because we have invested and we have become a place where technology companies want to locate and where innovation and research is being done. So I want to talk a little bit today about those two great topics, logistics and technology. And you can't talk about Georgia's logistics without noting that we are the home of the nation's fastest growing and the fourth largest port in the United States, and that's the port of Savannah. And that we are the nation's #1 port for automotive imports in the port of Brunswick. And let me just say to Griff and to Bart and Jamie and the entire team, Curtis, we have incredible partners in the Georgia Ports Authority. And when you have the ports of Savannah and Brunswick, you can sell a state. And folks know that we can reach anywhere in the world, and the world can come to us because of those partnerships, because we can bring goods and because we can bring them cheaply and efficiently. And I can't thank them enough for the partnership in economic development, for all that they do for us as well. We also have the world's most traveled airport in Atlanta, or as the mayor of Atlanta likes to say, the busiest airport on planet Earth. We have more railroad track miles than any other state. And when you have that, you have a lot that you can sell, and that's why our state is growing and will continue to grow. And the impact that Georgia's logistics network has on recruiting new businesses and helping existing industries grow is absolutely immeasurable. According to Area Development Magazine, site selection consultants named Georgia second in the U.S. for infrastructure and access to global markets in 2015. And we were first for distribution and supply chain hubs. And during FY15, our Global Commerce Division announced 329 projects. As a result of those projects, companies will be creating nearly 27,000 new jobs in our state, and they'll be investing $4.75 billion. Now, more than 3/4 of these private investments require logistics for their business model to succeed. A big reason why they chose Georgia as the place that they wanted to locate or expand their operations. To break the FY15 numbers down just a little further, Georgia's software and technology industry grew job opportunities by 128% and increased investment by 219% over the previous fiscal year. A few emerging industry sectors that we've seen in FY16 in the technology space include financial technology, or fintech, cybersecurity, and innovation centers. In fintech, Georgia is now the third largest in the nation, just behind New York and California as far as revenue goes. And in addition, 70% of all transactions in North America are processed through systems that are in Georgia. Our fintech industry continues to grow, and we're very, very proud of that, but also cybersecurity. Georgia now leads the nation in the information security industry in terms of research, talent, and number of data centers. More than 25% of worldwide security revenue is generated by companies in Georgia. That's a phenomenal number. Now, these technology-based businesses and their growth has a ripple effect that spawns growth in other industries as well, many of which require logistics. On June 9th, Governor Deal announced that GE Digital will establish its first global digital operations center in Atlanta. This project will create 250 high-paying, high-skilled jobs. And basically what GE is doing is it's bringing its digital backbone out from its divisions, creating a new division so that it can truly impact the Internet of Things as they go forward. This move is part of GE Digital's larger effort to bring its digital capabilities across all the spectrum, as I mentioned, into a single organization. And they will operate year-round and support operations connecting the Internet of Things to advance their supply chain and serve their customers in the most efficient and innovative ways that only Georgia's technology and logistics advantages can offer. One of the most critical factors in today's technology-based world is the ability to quickly and efficiently provide products to customers, suppliers, and businesses. And since the e-commerce boom, customers and businesses' logistical and distribution expectations have obviously risen dramatically. On March the 10th, Governor Deal announced that HD Supply Holdings, Inc., one of the largest industrial distributors in North America, will create 500 new jobs and invest more than $100 million in Cobb County. These new jobs will include a range of positions in sales, merchandising, operations, supply chain management, information technology, finance, and others. And then on June 22nd, Governor Deal announced that Amazon will create more than 500 full-time jobs at a 600,000 square foot facility in Jackson County. It will be used for packing and shipping large items such as household decor, sporting equipment, and gardening tools. Amazon has other facilities in Georgia as well. We're proud that they're locating this facility here, and hopefully there will be more to come. Georgia's extensive logistics and transportation infrastructure is a gateway to the global economy. The economic impact and connectivity between the port here on the coast and Atlanta is extensive. The Ports Authority supports 369,000 jobs around the state, 45% of which are located in the 10-county metro Atlanta region. More than 226,000 TEU containers are moved to and from metro Atlanta and the Port of Savannah each year. And the Georgia county impacted the most by the Port of Savannah? Fulton County. Almost 1.4 million tons of goods are moved to and from Fulton County each year. It's also important to point out that a few of the Georgia companies who benefit greatly from our economic development assets, both in Atlanta and on the coast. Home Depot has its global headquarters in Atlanta with a Savannah distribution center. Mercedes has its North American headquarters now in Atlanta as well, with auto imports at the Port of Brunswick. Porsche has its North American headquarters in Atlanta, and inbound containers come through Savannah. Caterpillar has plants in Griffin, Athens, and LaGrange, and exports through Savannah and Brunswick. All of our economic development successes are based on strong, established partnerships. Our logistics leaders are continuing to collaborate with the best and the brightest minds at our universities, technical colleges, and research centers, including our Georgia Centers for Innovation for Logistics, to improve efficiency. We will continue to foster key growth in key industries. We will attract more companies to the state, and in turn, we will create more jobs and investment in Georgia as a result of these collaborations. This is what we hear oftentimes makes Georgia stand out, and that is our partnership approach to economic development from the state, local, and utility partners, our educational partners, and the private sectors and beyond. Our teamwork and collaboration continues to meet the needs of companies that locate here. We as a state will continue to focus on the infrastructure that's needed to be successful to deliver goods quickly and efficiently in a global economy. And we also know that innovation and technology are driven by an access to talent and ideas which we have in our university system and technical schools. The world-class logistics network and workforce that's been developed in Georgia, the investments that we have made in the past have clearly paid off, and we have positioned Georgia to be a leader, global leader for years to come. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.
All right, as my panel is taking the stage here, I want to thank the Armstrong Carpentry Department for this giant podium they gave me. Glad my friend Chad isn't on the panel. He'd trip over this. But it is good to see everybody. A lot of friends here in the audience, and always good to see my friend Chris Carr. Little known fact, we were actually mock trial partners in law school. We tried a fake employment law case, and my future wife was on the jury. We lost, and one of us swore never to do litigation again as long as he lives. And the other one, he's now the Commissioner for Economic Development. You know, technology is an essential part of all of our lives, and logistics makes that happen. In his book, Door to Door, Edward Humes took out his iPhone and figured out that its component parts travel over 240,000 miles to make a finished product. That's the distance to the moon. And it wasn't but 50 years ago that logistics had its ultimate feat, and we announced the Eagle has landed. Still no word on whether they're going to announce the completion of the Eagles Land interchange on I-75 anytime soon. But you know, it takes logistics to create innovative technology, and it takes technology to create innovative logistics. We'll be talking about that technology, what's on the horizon, and what today's leaders in transportation are using to streamline operations and to enhance safety. We have several of those leaders with us today on today's panel. And as a guy in a certain black turtleneck once said, it is innovation that distinguishes a leader from a follower. You've got their bios, so let's just jump right in. With us we have Chip White, Professor of Logistics at Georgia Tech, Chris Jones, Vice President of Marketing and Services at Descartes, Brandon Tatum, Strategic Sales Executive at C.H. Robinson. Kent Williams, Vice President of Sales and Operations for Averitt Express. And last but not least, Gordon Hammer, General Manager of the Client Relations Center at the GPA. Chip, as you're closest, we'll start with you. You can't talk about transportation logistics without talking about data. We're swimming in terabytes of it. What do we do with it? What can you tell us about the next generation analytics that you see on the horizon?
Before I go on and talk about the topics that Smitty has asked me to talk about, I would like to point out a picture. Pictured here is the MOL vessel Benefactor, the first vessel to call on Savannah through the Panama Canal's new third set of locks, and also the largest ship to call on Savannah, and very proud of that. Congratulations to the Port of Savannah for the important milestone that it achieved with this berthing. With respect to what we see in terms of trends, we have next generation customers that are coming on. I think everybody is familiar with the Amazon effect and also the I want it now type of customer, and also the growing and aging middle class and more affluent middle class that is affecting trade worldwide, and how they are typically moving into urban areas, and how this is stressing urban logistics, urban infrastructure, and so forth. So this is a trend that we see. Another trend is manufacturing innovations. Manufacturing capability is becoming more modular, perhaps mobile, and additive with 3D printer, and we see dramatic impacts on the design of products through these additive manufacturing capabilities, but also dramatic impacts on the way supply chains are going to be designed and redesigned as a result. Next generation transportation is a topic of today. We're talking about platooning a bit. Driverless trucks are in the future. Drones are certainly being discussed now, and automated guided vehicles are appearing in warehouses throughout Georgia, throughout the nation, throughout the world now. And of course, next generation data. The expanding, accelerating volume, velocity, and variety of these data brought on by new sensors, biometrics, and also starting to incorporate traffic congestion information because of the growth in city logistics and how important it is. Going on to what the next generation supply chains are going to look like, they're going to be intelligent, adaptive, and automated. Automated by IT, automated by robotics and next generation robotics. Batch sizes, build to order are going to become smaller. What I call extreme mass customization is going to be in part enhanced by some of the manufacturing innovations that we've mentioned. We've already mentioned on time and on-demand delivery that is currently affecting the design of supply chains in a major type of way. Bionic enhancement, cobots, next generation robotics in warehouses that can work alongside humans, and of course IT. And the topic that Smitty has asked me to talk about is next generation analytics and the software, the brains behind taking these data and turning them into decisions that support the more efficient supply chains and more efficient logistics. These will be data-driven logistics, pieces of software that will concurrently learn and make decisions, again, based on real-time data with the intent of monetizing or extracting value, some kind of value, either money or safety or enhanced customer service levels from data in real time. And I think we're going to be hearing from my colleagues here on the panel. Chris is going to be talking about trading information for inventory, which is a supply chain issue. Brandon will be talking about IT for improved fleet management. Kent will be talking about IT for improved fleet safety, a very important feature. And Gordon will be talking about IT to better support improved customer service levels. So the objective is more efficient, safer, more reliable, with higher customer service levels, supply chains and logistics, to make us more competitive as we move into the future. And with that, Smitty, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chip. Chris, move on to you next.
Okay, thank you, Smitty, and thank you, Chip. What I want to talk about is one of the points that Chip mentioned was you're going to have all this data now. What are you going to do with it? The perspective I'd like to take today is what I'll call a retailer distribution perspective. It could apply to manufacturers as well. But probably one of the most important things to think about, as Chip mentioned, that it's now retailers or distributors are really looking at information as valuable, in some cases more valuable than the goods themselves. And they want to make decisions on the flow of those goods. And what this is doing is putting a tremendous strain, particularly in the logistics community, to provide the data that they need. So I thought I'd start with the rationale of what they're after here. One of them is they don't really want to wait till the product shows up at the dock door, all right, to make a decision on how they're going to deploy that inventory. So if you're familiar with cross-dock technology and so forth, it doesn't really work as well as it could unless you have a very good flow, okay, and think of that flow as really being two things. One is obviously, let's say as a logistics service provider, you've got to do a good job of getting the goods there. But there's an old joke in the logistics technology business is there's two definitions to an ASN: advanced ship notice and already shipped notice. All right, and so what we really want to do here is match that inventory with the flow of information, and in many cases, obviously, you can imagine, is to beat that flow of goods. Once retailers and distributors are able to do that, and we'll talk about it on another slide here in a second, is they're able to really look at what they can do with the business and how they can be better at really serving all of us in the end. Another key important point here is you know, as we talk about road networks and everything else, and it is amazing to see what Georgia has really put together, I think we all know that roads are largely congested. If you, again, are a logistics service provider, I actually saw some very interesting information the other day that essentially the demurrage or delays, people sitting around distribution centers and so forth is becoming more and more of an issue, all right? So if you're now able to start looking at how you can provide that kind of information and control the flow, you can actually then control the flow of vehicles and really start to help reduce things like congestion both on the roads and, let's say, at a distribution center. There's a lot of other benefits to that, and I'll get to it in a minute. Okay, so a couple key things to think about here. It's not just about the shipment, okay? A retailer and manufacturer actually really doesn't care about the shipment. They care about the goods in the shipment, okay? So matching that information together, the flow of you know, of the shipment itself, the vehicle, where it is, with what's in there is really the aha moment. And this is where we're going to see a lot more work, and if you will, whether we talk about the Internet of Things or mobile technology, it's really going to help pull those two pieces together. All right. The other point of it is that we also need to then measure not just delivery performance, but information delivery performance. Okay. So it's going to be very important that you do very well and add that as a service because the expectation is I can't make decisions reliably if I don't have it. Okay. The other part that I'm going to say is the retailer or distributor doesn't care who owns the freight. It could be them controlling it, it could be a supplier controlling it. They all want to see it, and they want to see it uniformly here. So this is another challenge to matching that. So if we turn to the next slide, what you're going to see is just a real quick example. This is something that we did with CVS. I'm pretty sure everybody here has been to a CVS. They have over 11,000 stores. It's, I don't know what their current business, I think it's $100 billion, $100 billion. So huge volumes here, big DCs, a lot of LTL into those DCs, believe it or not. And so let's go through real quickly. At the top, if you look in the gray, is what we would call the PO life cycle. This is the things that you normally think about from a commercial relationship. You have a purchase order to a supplier, they acknowledge it, and then they send off an ASN. But it doesn't stop there, okay? And what they wanted to do was measure what I'll call PO to dock door delivery. So if you add to that some more information, and I kept this picture simple, you've got a tender from the supplier, okay, to the carrier, and then you have acknowledgement of that, okay, and then the carrier then has to go online to basically get a dock door appointment. okay? The aha moment when they really looked at their supply chain was when they got that dock appointment schedule, okay, and they tied that delivery to the inventory, they had a high 90% reliability in that would happen. And when they were able to do that, that was when all of a sudden they started to be able to really look at how they could flow their goods through their network. I'll just tell you this, that we're talking billions of dollars in inventory that went out the door by that one simple thing. So this is where really you see the power of information and how it can really change businesses.
Well, thank you, Chris. You know, Brandon, you work for a Fortune 500 transportation and logistics company. How is C.H. Robinson using some of this technology to interface with its customers and with its employee operators?
So as Chris and Chip alluded to, next generation analytics, gaining visibility into their supply chain. How do companies do this? You do it through transportation management system, a TMS. What should companies look for when deciding on a TMS? It should give them global visibility, actionable intelligence, optimization options, and trusted performance and security. What we know now about global visibility is people want to be able to track and trace to know where their shipment's going to be, if it's going to arrive on time. And how do customers gain that information? Global visibility is the most important thing that customers want to know today. Where is my truck? When you start adding automation and efficiency into traceability of a shipment, that gives you the ability to tell your customer where that truck is today, and for shippers to understand if their shipment's going to arrive on time, if that production line is going to be shut down or operational today. There are many different truckload providers out there today, and not all of them can make capital investments. Not everyone can offer EDI like we have with Averitt. GPS is new, but how can smaller companies really see a return on investment in adding that type of technology when they already have to maintain their trucks? And when we look into the available fleet that's out there today, 50% of the truckers on the road today own 50 trucks or less. So they're small business owners. They're people who can't afford to make those capital investments. C.H. Robinson works with 68,000 different carriers. And what we've realized was we got to be able to add this automation into visibility. And the way we've done it is through MacroPoint. MacroPoint can either be loaded through an app or a text message. Once approved by the carrier, we can see where the shipment is anytime, any day, any place. There's no additional cost on their cell phone bills, nothing that a driver has to do. Think about it. We're on the East Coast, right? A lot of us ship over to the West Coast. Who wants a call at 5 a.m. to see if they're going to deliver on time? Nobody. And this type of technology is also going to increase safety. If the truck driver doesn't have to pick up his phone, try to text a location to his dispatcher, that's going to increase safety. And customers also want to understand where is the shipment. This is giving them the ability to track and trace at any time. It connects seamlessly to the transportation network, our transportation management system, and provides live updates upon request in real time when customers need it. Thank you, Chris.
And does that TMS system, does that help with route optimization?
Yes, it'll give you the data and information based on historical data. And also, when you're talking about tracing a shipment, you're really looking at a moment in time. And this is when you start getting into predictive analytics. If you think about that moment in time, if we know that truck is in Chicago, it only has 500 miles left, it could make delivery the next day. And that's what people want to understand when you look into your transportation.
And you could consolidate some of those orders, save money on the routes.
Yes.
Well, great. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Now, Kent, speaking about operations, you are the vice president for one of the nation's leading freight transportation companies. And I know over at Averitt, safety is your top priority. What can you tell us about some of the recent safety technologies and those coming up on the horizon that folks here could use in their businesses to help enhance safety? And I know as a trucking defense litigator, I'm especially interested in these event recorders we were talking about.
there have been quite a few advances in motor carrier safety that are really exciting, have had a dramatic impact on safety, which is so important to all of us and all of our families. There's been some, the accidents when trucks are involved, they're not pretty, and they tend to make a lot of publicity, and understandably so. 3 recent advancements is the collision avoidance or collision mitigation, as we call it. None of these will replace a professional driver who's being attentive and alert, but a system like this works off of a radar. It establishes a following distance, usually around 3.6 seconds, and obviously that distance increases with vehicle speed. It can be synced to an adaptive cruise, or it can be used with cruise off, but as the vehicle approaches an object, the radar picks it up, and you get an audible warning. Starts very similar to a backup camera on the cars many of us will have. We'll get the slow beeping, which will become a faster beeping, and then the throttle will start to reduce, and the braking system starts to take over. The driver at any time can apply additional braking as he sees fits, and the system never takes over the steering. The driver always remains in control of the steering. Many cases, a driver could be distracted. We all know that fatigue, unfortunately, can sometimes be an issue, despite every carrier's dedication and commitment to try to avoid that. This can really help with that. It may not prevent a collision from occurring, but it can have a dramatic impact on the severity of the collision and potential loss of life. So it's a tremendous asset, and it's really, really helped on the rear-end collisions, which are often very tragic. The second slide, which is this is the lane departure, and this is about 30 to 35% of truck vehicle accidents are related to lane departure. It can be us drifting over and striking somebody next to us, or sometimes more serious, leaving the roadway. And this is a system of electronic cameras that monitor the lanes. If the driver activates his turn signal, then the system won't work. It won't give him it won't give him a warning. But if he does not have the turn signal on, and he's going over, I believe, 30 miles an hour, if he were to approach either line and his vehicle starts to depart his lane of travel, he'll get an audible rumble sound warning that's actually quite loud, as well as a flashing indicator. It will come from the right side of the vehicle if he's crossing the right lane, or left side of the vehicle if he's crossing the left lane. We found that this system has had an 80% reduction on lane departure type of accidents that we've experienced. So it's another good one, because this is one of the big ones for us. Then the last system we have, well, actually, okay, this is actually this is interesting. This is our onboard cameras, our data recorders. This is a road rage. I don't think you can see the video too well, but what happened on this is this guy, we were on I-85. He was trying to merge on. Hopefully there's nobody in this room. And our driver could not get over because he had trucks on his side, so the guy got kind of frustrated with that. He cut in behind us. As he passed the driver, he flashed a weapon, and maybe we'll show it again. I don't think you can ever see the weapon, but then he gets over in front of our guy and slams on his brakes. Did it twice. We actually tap him at one point. We report the accident. He speeds off, so we don't see him there, but the driver reported the accident. We then get a follow-up from an attorney a few weeks later claiming great bodily injury, which is interesting since we had no damage on our equipment and very minimal damage on his. We produced this video that was from our data recorder, and the attorney said he withdrawed his representation of the client. Yeah. So, and we get these all the time, and they show everything. If we're at fault, it shows it. If we're not at fault, it shows it. We've got so many of these which will show something other than what is often reported when the big trucking company has the accident. We've elected to go forward-facing only. We don't want to invade the driver's privacy with they do have in-cab, inward-facing cameras, and that wasn't really popular, so we've gone with forward-facing only. They're on all the time, and they stay on up to an hour after the driver powers off the unit, so if somebody were to back into him or something like that, we've got a record of that. First, it's met with some resistance, but when we share episodes like this, the drivers are 100% on board. So it's been a great technology. The one thing I did not have a slide on, there's also anti-rollover stability control. It's a series of sensors that are on the vehicle that helps prevent rollover accidents, which often are very splashy and very tragic. The vehicle, I'm not an expert on it, but it's got a gravity type sensor, a stability sensor. So as a unit, if it's approaching a curve too fast, it will that will go off and applies braking to wheels at different speeds. It can also prevent jackknifes, especially in inclement weather, ice and rain, that kind of thing. So a lot going on the safety front.
Well, thank you, Kent, and that really shows that Averett's commitment and the industry's commitment to try and make these trucks as safe as possible. Gordon, we've now heard from retailers, brokers, shippers, and truckers. They're all heading to the port, trailing ones and zeros in their wake. What is the port doing with all this technology? How are you interfacing with all these customers and everything they have going on?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Well, clearly, this technology, this important technology, it's indisputable how important it is. My role here on this panel is a bit unique as I try to couple this vital technology that the port has with the importance of the human touch, which is what the Client Relations Center at the port is doing today. So for those who don't know who the Client Relations Center is, let me introduce you to us. We are the port's industry's first and only centralized customer care team. We are a frontline communication tool designed to respond to our customers with a single point of contact. Enough about us. Along with technology solutions, Client Relations Centers port representatives play a critical role in delivering superior customer service in two different ways. One is the traditional way of customer service representatives handling customers' needs directly. And two is the evolution of where customer service is going, and that is being the interpreters and the trainers and the support to the port's technology that we offer our customers. Today's debate is, how do you handle customer service in a rapid growing age of technology? Through technology solutions, science, versus the human touch, art. Art being defined as the ability to interact with knowledgeable staff, skilled staff, about the challenges and issues that are facing our customers today. So our customers suffering today because companies of all sizes are investing in technology but have stopped investing in service. This can't get much closer. Any closer. So there really does remain a large percentage of customer interactions that are best handled directly by representatives due to technology issues, technology support that's needed, technology training, and complex problem-solving issues, especially when it pertains to customer retention. So customers will continue to challenge the increasing role of technology inside the customer service process. And the more they challenge, and the more you include technology in the customer service process, that will signify a loss of the human touch. So as vessels become larger and the ocean carriers strive for greater productivity and less dwell times, so does the need for improved efficiencies to handle our increased cargo moving through the port. So how do we handle that? So let's talk a little bit about the port's technology. Container visibility. It's used for better planning and utilization of our port's assets. But radio frequency identification, or RFID, and that's used by our trucking community for improved communications and productivity through our gates. We got on-terminal GPS mapping for easier identification of the 35,000 plus containers we have on the terminal every day. We have our terminal operating system, which for efficiency gains at the interchange gates and also in the yard, so that we can build more capacity and move containers more efficiently. And then we offer our customers certain technology, web access. Web access really provides real-time container status to our customer owners, where you can get a multiple amount of information from that system, customized reporting, container availability, and so many different other aspects that we offer our customers. We also have a system that we call COAT, and COAT is a Navis-based software the CRC and Customs Border Protection maintain for real-time dialogue of our containers that move to and from our inspection station. The CRC, or the Client Relations Center, has an automated call distribution system, which is a phone system that allows us to distribute calls equally throughout all the representatives. Again, distributing workload so that all our representatives are handling somewhat of the same amount of workload. So the CRC, we handle all port users. We handle multiple calls, multiple emails, ranging from general questions to complex issues and research to technology service support and training. We are the interpreters of the port's technology. The CRC offers customers options, putting us in the role of a consultant, which our customers value highly. So in my opinion, you can take the best state-of-the-art technology and place it in your organization. But if you don't have the people that understand those key components, you will not be successful. So one last thing, remember, in times of rapid transformation, technological transformation, it's the human factor that will bring you success. Use your technology tools as added value, but use your human touch, the art approach, to retain your customers.
Thank you, Gordon, and it's important not to forget that. What I'd like to move on to now are some specific topics that I've heard from various folks in this room and various clients that they had concerns with or would like to hear a discussion about. From some of my third-party logistics providers, they've expressed great concern over supply chain disruptions. It's one of their major concerns. Chip, what could you tell us about state-of-the-art dynamic traffic resequencing?
Okay, yes, this is something that we have learned. By the way, one of the things that we do at Georgia Tech in terms of logistics and supply chain management is try to understand what's going on worldwide and new ideas in logistics, particularly city logistics. And one of the things that we picked up in for the large package express companies in Tokyo was that they use traffic information to reroute, en route, from going from point A to point B, and also resequence their stops in order to let traffic dissipate and reduce the impact or the disruption of traffic in their delivery routes. And so one of the things that we have done, and I think Descartes will be an example of a company that certainly looked into the value of real-time traffic information in pickup and delivery, is to study the value of watching the patterns of traffic, seeing what can be done in terms of rerouting en route, resequencing en route without disrupting customer expectations too much. And so that's an example of one of the things that we're seeing. Again, it's finding value in this case, real-time traffic information.
And I've read recently about a DHL smart truck that was cruising around Berlin, and I think it's headed to Singapore.
Yes. DHL has a smart truck activity that's going on in Berlin, and it's now moving on to Singapore, which does exactly what I mentioned. Takes traffic information, resequences pickup and delivery stops when the customer will permit it. And the Singapore is actually looking at the idea too. There's a big outpost, DHL outpost in Singapore. I might mention that Georgia Tech is partnering with the National University of Singapore in a center called the Center for Next Generation Logistics to study logistics in Southeast Asia, primarily because that's where a lot of the growing business is. And I think it's of value to the U.S. to understand the competitive landscape in the future, and that's the reason we're there. But DHL is a partner of ours. We work with them, and we hope that what we learn and understand will help U.S. companies that do business in that part of the world, including Descartes and some of the other package express companies, UPS, FedEx, XPO, Menlo Logistics, that find themselves in Singapore, in that part of the world.
Not too long ago, I attended a very informative seminar put on by our friends over at SunTrust, and one of the things that came up was this chronic shortage of truck drivers that we'll be facing as today's truck drivers are getting older, they're retiring, and the younger folks aren't so eager to drive coast to coast anymore. And there's shown to be a definite shortage that we're facing that will affect our industry dramatically. One of the solutions that's being put forth and is popular in Europe right now is a concept called platooning. And I wonder, Kent, if you could give us a little bit about the platooning and maybe the different types that we're looking at in the future.
Sure, Smitty. Is this one on yet? Hello? Nope. Platooning is an interesting concept, and I can only imagine the fear we might have thinking of them going down Bay Street with 5 trucks operating together. But first generation platooning is basically each tractor does have a driver. Think of it as kind of an autopilot type system. So you might have 5 tractors running together and very closely together in certain situations. I think they're doing more of this in Europe, and we're starting to test it in the western United States. The ECMs, electronic control modules, are talking to each other, so the engines are talking to each other, adjusting speed and braking, following distance, that kind of thing. The drivers do have to stay somewhat attentive. We all probably heard about the guy in the Tesla that was watching a Harry Potter movie and vehicle turned in front of him and he got killed. But so you can't be watching movies, at least at this stage in first generation platooning, but it does allow for very, very close following distances, which has a tremendous impact on fuel efficiency. I think over time certainly can reduce labor and can allow drivers to work on other tasks rather than second generation platooning is actually one driver, 5 trucks following behind him. And I don't know. I'll be around to see that working, at least in the southeast, but maybe so. It's hard to imagine, but certainly in certain remote areas, long straight stretches of highway, dedicated lanes, something like that could work. You know, getting on and off an interstate with 5 trucks controlled together. I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around it, but certainly it's coming. So.
I read they recently vetoed it in Missouri as the governor had pictured a bunch of driverless trucks cruising around the state. But to be clear, that the first generation platooning is going to be an advanced cruise control with 1 driver at the helm, 4 behind him, and by putting the trucks closer together, you're going to save a footprint on the highway, you're going to save fuel, you're going to move things more efficiently, and possibly be able to split off drivers to local routes and such, and I do think we will see that in the future.
Great.
Along with this platooning idea, one very real technology advance that is being implemented across the country, causing an uproar in the trucking community as everyone is trying to comply, is the new ELD, or electronic logging device mandate, that is scheduled to take place scheduled to be implemented by December 2017. And Kent, I don't know if you or Brandon wanted to talk a little bit about ELDs in general and what some of the folks in the industry are doing to comply with this new rule.
Sure, maybe we both tackle it. Our goal is we're probably 70% compliant now, and our goal is to be 100% compliant a year in advance this December 17th. And it's basically for years any driver of a commercial vehicle over 10,000 pounds has had to log his activity to ensure we don't run into these situations where we have a fatigued driver. We could get into the particulars, but basically they can't drive more than 70 hours over an 8-day period, or they vary depending upon whether you're hauling passengers or people, and there's local exemptions and things like that. But the drivers have always had to maintain a paper, somewhat archaic log system, but it has worked for years, and the ELD mandate was require us to go electronic. It can't be something on a tablet or a smartphone. It has to be actually hooked into the engine. The device will monitor when the truck is moving, engine speed, and that kind of thing. But it also, not only does it monitor the driver as he's driving, but just like the old logbooks, if he's on duty and he's at a shipper's dock or receiver's dock, or even, it will monitor all of his activity. He has to have some manual input. If he's working in the service center before he leaves, certainly that information is recorded. The advantages for fleets, other than it certainly increases the cost of doing business, is it allows us to combine the vehicle inspection reports, which we're required to keep, as well as the logs, and the filing burden is tremendous for large fleets with those documents, and this is going to eliminate that. Driver will have to be able to provide those to a law enforcement officer upon demand, and there's ways we can do that. We can actually show him that in cab, or we can transmit it to his device, or have it faxed to a weigh scale, whatever we need to do. We can be compliant with that.
What do you see in the industry? What percent is compliant right now?
I understand it's fairly low industry-wide. I couldn't hazard a guess. I don't know if you could, but they need to get on with it.
I think truckers, when you look at electronic logs and that type of capital investment, as we stated earlier, 50% of the market, very low, has 50 trucks or less, so making that type of investment into their fleets, owner-operators making day-to-day. Large companies like Averitt have that capital investment, they can make that. But the majority of the fleets out there today are smaller, not able to make that type of investment. Now it is going to create some administrative efficiencies for truck drivers, which will be a huge efficiency gain. But also, what happens when a driver is 20 miles out from his home? He can't make it home at night, but he's got to shut down on hours. There's also going to be some backlash on that, so hopefully there'll be some open-ended rules and a little bit of ability to make better decisions if they can go 20 or 30 minutes longer to make it to a better resting stop.
A little more flexibility?
Yeah, flexibility.
Yeah, it's interesting. This whole mandate has been recently challenged by the owner-operator industry group. They filed suit in the 7th Circuit challenging that the new ELDs are not helpful and invade the driver's privacy. They basically provide a 24/7 monitor of where the driver's going and what he's doing. And their biggest argument is that despite all the technology, the driver still has to push on duty or off duty. So they maintain it's no different than a paper log. I don't know if this challenge will work or not, but this same group was successful in 2011 striking down the previous attempt at an ELD mandate. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some modifications, as you guys mentioned. Another legal requirement that has just taken effect that a lot of my shipper friends and warehousing friends have discussed is the new requirement under SOLAS. That's the Safety of Life at Sea Act. They have recently, as of July 1st, required all shippers to provide a verified gross mass for the container weigh-in. And Gordon, I don't know if that's something you can tell about how the port is dealing with that and the requirement in general.
Sure. A lot of anxiety with this regulation for sure, but really a bit like Y2K, kind of came and went. Things are moving really smooth. When it comes to the port, we have always and will continue to weigh our export boxes, both truck and rail. Here we go. Both by truck and rail that enter our interchange gates. Those weights that we gather from the interchange gates are sent to the ocean carriers through EDI, through a activity message, a 322 EDI message. With OSEMA and the U.S. Coast Guard, it's been agreed that our weights at the port are now VGM equivalency accepted. So all the ocean carriers now can use our weights through the port. So there's not a lot of transmissions that go back and forth, except now from the port to the ocean carrier. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty much business as usual right now. We will continue to weigh all containers, all exports at no cost. So a bit like Y2K, we really don't have a lot of problems right now with SOLAS at all.
It's something important for shippers and warehousemen to take a look at your existing contracts that I bet don't mention the SOLAS requirement or who has ultimate responsibility or indemnity obligations. With all this data we've heard about, Chris, what I'd like to hear from you is how can some of this actual data drive cash flow for a shipper or a retailer? Can a POD reduce my DSO?
The answer is yes. And by the way, let me start with talking about the logistics community. I'll just say this. I've been in the business for a long, long time. And really the last 10 plus years, mobile technology has taken off. And everybody always says mobile, you capture the data, it's real time, and it's more accurate. And then the conversation falls off because those things are true. But what we found is actually what's really important to understand is that it's how you take that data then and apply it that's where that aha moment happens. So let me explain to you an example. We have a large freight forwarder customer who their biggest challenge, and I'm going to probably guess everybody in the logistics community has the same challenge, is the cash-to-cash cycle. Okay, how quickly am I going to get paid? Well, what drives how quickly I'm going to get paid? It's really simple. It's timeliness and it's accuracy of data. Okay, so what if I'm able to get most of the data that I need when I actually do a delivery? All right, can I embed that data? Can I add more to that data? Proof of signature, the picture of the delivery, damages, all this other stuff. And can I then take that data instantly and drive that through my AR system? All right, so what this forwarder recognized is if they could do that, they literally could take days out of that cycle, which drives their DSO. Now, here's the interesting thing, and they're very much like C.H. Robinson in sense of they don't have their own fleets. They work with hundreds of carriers, all right? And many of these carriers are exactly like you're saying. They're small. So what they did was they asked us to produce both I'll call it a portal and a mobile app that those local carriers, and that's really what they are, all right, local carriers use. And so when they go along to make those deliveries, they're actually capturing that information. The win for the carrier was they actually said that they would shorten their payment cycle for the carrier. Okay, so think about this. It's not just the data, but it's what's the incentive here. So they're actually able to take and shorten their total cycle, get paid faster. Okay, so think about turns on your money and so forth, as well as solve a problem that many of those same carriers have them, that are working with them. The second one to talk about is if, let's say, like a food distributor as an example, all right? If you're in the food service business or a similar business where you're doing deliveries, it's a really, I'll describe it, can be a very messy cycle. And what I mean by that is when you go to make the delivery, you actually may find that you have returns at the same time. And oh, by the way, that the contract that one customer has versus another customer is completely different. So what unfortunately will happen in the traditional paper world is all those things are written down and eventually they go back to the head office and someone tries to figure out what the guy wrote and key it in and send a bill that then gets rejected. Okay? So what if I can actually cut a clean invoice at the time that I'm actually doing those returns, and then include the fact that so-and-so has a certain discount for this versus something else and another customer, okay? So in this case, again, what they're really doing is focusing on cleaning the data right at that point and getting it done very quickly. So in both those cases, we're really talking about really dramatically shortening the cash-to-cash cycle, and then the other key thing is disputes. Cuts disputes massively, much like your video point. You got it all there. It's really tough for people to say they didn't get what they were supposed to get, and so forth.
And lastly, we've seen Uber change the face of local passenger transport. Brandon, do you see trucks driving around, local drayage trucks with a big black U anytime soon?
We all hope not, right? But everyone remembers 1998 and the internet, right? Everyone was around during that time. Everyone thought at that time you could click a little mouse button and your shipment problems would just go away. And I think we found that to not exactly be true. Uber's entered a market where it's been regulated for so long, there was no competition. There was no one else adding that. Transportation has been deregulated since 1980. we see the information coming in and out. We see companies entering the marketplace, coming up with new ideas and bringing them to the forefront. But what a mobile app won't solve is it won't provide you the people, as Gordon talked about, the processes, which is what Descartes talked about a little bit. How do you make those intelligent decisions on your freight to enable your technology to work? And that's really where the Uber is a nice thought, but it's not necessarily realized yet. But there's going to be things we pull from Uber that are going to be brilliant, like the macro point, being able to mobily locate people. And then on the shipping end, how do we tie it in there? There'll be some exciting technology that comes from it, but it'll have to exist with people, processes, and the current technology in order to work in the transportation industry.
Thank you, Brandon. And now, keeping right on our logistics timetable, is Julie around with a microphone? All right, there we go. Did anybody in the audience have any questions for our panel? I've got a hand over here in the center.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Stankiewicz. I'm with A&S Kennard, and we're a subsidiary of Celadon. And quick question. In Europe, the trend has always been with a lot of transportation, big trucks, they move at night, and you normally don't see trucks on the road. A lot of times they're from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. With the current laws with the that are on the books for the truckers and hours of service, do you ever see that changing here in the U.S. as another vehicle to be able to eliminate congestion during normal daylight hours and then putting, more distribution trucks on the road in the evening, changing hours in distribution centers too? Food for thought.
Kent, Brandon, or?
Can't respond without thank you.
Certainly, there are regulations regarding truck-only lanes and that kind of thing, and efforts to keep us from clogging up the highways. Actually, a lot of truck transportation does in fact take place at night. In fact, the LTL fleets, that's primarily when we do all of our line haul movement between terminals. It all happens at night. So you have a lot of daytime activity because a lot of our customers obviously are open during the daytime, so there's no really way around that. The over-the-road guys, really the laws, the hours of service don't really impact that. There was, you might be referring to when the restart period required 2 periods of being off between one. Yes, that was going to kind of mess up some of the carriers' cycles, but I think there's always an effort that just good business practices is to run at night and avoid high congestion, high traffic times when you can, but also meeting your customer's obligations. If your customer is if he's in a suburb of Atlanta and he closes receiving at 5 o'clock, you're going to have to be in there, obviously during daylight hours. So I think we do as much as we can.
Sure.
So I just had the privilege of spending a week in Australia last month, and what you're also seeing is a lot more legislation, which, by the way, you're seeing here in the U.S. at a local level, and Australia is, quite frankly, much further ahead here. Believe it or not, as big as the country is, it really comes down to a couple cities, and they're incredibly dense. And so what's happening is they're doing more and more legislation that's going to make this kind of a challenge to handle in the following sense, okay, which is they're cutting, for instance, the number of places you can unload at. Okay, so that's making it even tougher. And then they are looking at putting more restrictions in, for instance, during the daytime in cities. London has been that way for a long time now, right? So we're going to see more and more of that. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have to think differently about how, for instance, we handle last mile. So in many cases, last mile will have to be things like collaborative, so going to a common point to then go deliver. In Australia, there's a number of their malls that are downtown, and they actually do things like dock appointments schedule the malls, all right, because they go underground and so forth to do all this stuff. So we're going to see a lot more different approaches. Legislation is going to drive some of that, but also I think as either logistics service providers or as shippers, we're going to have to think differently about how we ask them to do it. So I think the question about things like what's the open times for distribution centers and so forth, those are things that are really going to have to both be looked at the same time.
Yeah, actually Averitt is a regional LTL, non-union LTL, which would run its line haul at night typically, and do pickup and delivery during the day. So those trucks that you perhaps don't see at night are they're being compensated by pickup and delivery during the day. I don't know if you use your same fleet for pickup and delivery during the day. Conway does, and other LTL, typically regional LTLs, do that. But in the daytime, you see line haul also for your interregionals and your nationals. So they're there. Going to Chris's point about restrictions, Tokyo has been restricting large trucks, large for them, trucks in the cities throughout Japan for some time, and deliveries are at night. In terms of last mile, Menlo does last mile at night in Bangkok for Starbucks, just to avoid the congestion that's typical in the megacities in Asia Pacific. So I think in many ways it's just better utilizing the road network and trying to avoid traffic as much as possible, plus the fact there's just a natural cycle for LTL and Package Express to run their line haul at night.
Do we have another question? There in the back.
What advice would you give small startup companies that are trying to compete with the bigger companies in brokering, freight forwarding?
Take a shot at it.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Make your investments in technology and people. People first, though. It really is still a community out there of shippers and receivers, and you want people that mesh well with your organization, can communicate well. So having the right people on the front line first is very important, and then having technology behind them and an account management structure to support the day-to-day business, because when you're shipping, it's a lot of phone time. As Gordon mentioned with the customer service center, I mean, that's what brokerage services do. We are the customer service. We're the go-between from the customer and the carrier, and we provide that information in a timely fashion and when the customers need it. Yeah.
It's a really crowded space, if you didn't know that already, okay? I would tell you, we actually did a benchmark study of forwarders and brokers across North America this spring, and we had over 100 people participate in it, and we asked, you know, how people really choose to compete. Long story short, no surprise, it's really on their called domain expertise and value-added services. It's not about basic filing. You know, that's a tough place to be operating in. You know, I think the message we'd give you is you better find a real niche where you know something that you don't think anybody else does, because there's probably a boatload of other people there in similar situations. So, you know, filing will be I do it. It's the knowledge you have about a certain commodities or lanes or, you know, transportation methods or anything else like that are really going to, you know, so get narrow. That's probably the message.
And make sure you read the fine print of that 60-page contract you get from the ocean carrier, and make sure you understand what obligations your company is undertaking. Any other questions?
I have a slightly different question. It's still about small owner operators. The technology that you mentioned today can really make or break your efficiency and can increase your return on your investment. So what recommendation do you have for small owner operators with respect to learning about those technologies and finding ways to incorporate them into their businesses?
Quick start. Let me quick start here. Here's what I'd say is probably cash flow is probably one of the biggest things you got as a challenge. Really looking at what I'll call cloud-based services, the pay-as-you-go models are probably the best places to be. The other quick comment I'll make is start simple. Don't think grandiose. This is where people get buried. You know, how can I add some some value. There's two kinds of value. Obviously, there's operational efficiency, and the second one that is think about the kinds of customers you're going to serve and the kinds of information and value you can provide with technology for them.
I can make a comment. I won't answer your question, but some of these new requirements for electronic logs and so forth, I think are going to affect small owners, owner-operators and small owners. And many of them are getting out of business right now. This is on the truckload side. So I can see this regulation and the barriers to entry because of the cost can lead to some consolidation of the industry, which may not be bad for the industry, but it may reduce the amount of capacity the industry has. To be determined. Maybe there some people down the line here can comment on the impact on those kinds of regulations on the capacity of the industry.
Yeah, the capacity in the industry right now, currently, it's a pretty soft market. Yeah. So entering the market at this point is probably one of the harder times to do it. I just learned this morning that 3 to 4% is available right now. We have a 3 to 4% surplus on capacity. So finding a niche market, understanding that, and also partnering with people, not only customers, but brokers that are financially stable and can provide you with either quick pay options or will make good. And understand what you're signing up for too. How long will it take you to load? Demurrage is a major cost factor when you're looking at a shipper or a receiver. Is it standard 2 hours? What happens after that? How much is my driver going to be reimbursed for sitting there for 3, 4, 5 days sometimes? So understand what you're signing up for, look for the right customers, and make sure they're financially stable and will pay you on time. Cash flow, right? Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, well, as we wrap up right on time, I want to thank Mary from our office and Sandy from the center for all their hard work in putting this together, along with our panelists. And lastly, as we leave here, we've talked a lot about technology, but I look around this room at all the folks, and you folks are what make it so special to work in Savannah. Let's use this technology. Let's keep Savannah the best place to work, and let's keep Georgia the best state to do business. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Smitty. Just a couple of brief items before we break. I want to thank everyone for attending. I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I learned a lot of information that I didn't know from our panel, and so I'd like to give our panel a round of applause because they did an excellent job. So thank you to Chip, Chris, Brandon, Kent, and Gordon for attending and imparting the knowledge on us today. I'd also like to echo Smitty's thoughts and thank the Center of Innovation for Logistics, Janine, Sandy, Emily, and all the staff for all of their help and their partnership to pull this off. I'd like to thank Commissioner Carr for taking the time to come from Atlanta to visit with us and speak about economic development. And lastly, I'd like to, again, echo Smitty's thoughts and thank Mary Seisloff of our office. She's a great asset, and we're lucky to have her. So thank you, Mary.
Everyone that has any answer questions or comments, the panel will be available here for another half hour. Feel free to come on up.
As Janine mentioned, there's a survey on your table. We'd appreciate it if you would take just a moment before you leave to provide us some feedback. If you can give it to either a member of Hunter McLean or the Center of Innovation for Logistics staff. Thank you for attending today's event, and we hope to see you next year.